Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're tackling practical tips for better English speaking. We'll be looking closely at this guide called Step-by-Step English Speaking Practice.
It
And
really does break things down into manageable steps.
it does.
Yeah.
And it all starts with greetings and introductions.
Yeah.
I know it might seem basic, but those first few words really set the tone for any conversation.
Right. A strong hello, how are you can put everyone at ease, both you and the person you're talking to. Like you're ready to communicate.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that when I fumble my introduction, it kind of throws off the whole conversation.
It makes sense.
So getting those first phrases right can really help.
Mhm.
This guide actually gives some examples like, I'm good, thank you, how about you? Do you find those helpful for your students?
Absolutely. Having those go-to phrases can help avoid those awkward silences,
Yeah,
but it's not just memorizing, it's about understanding and using them, right?
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So you've broken the ice. How do you keep the conversation going? The guide says asking questions is key.
Yeah, asking questions does a couple things. First, it shows you're interested in the other person. Second, it helps you learn new things. But here's what's interesting. This guide suggests certain types of questions to really boost your learning.
Okay, tell me more. This is what I love about these deep dives.
Instead of like a yes/no question like, do you like movies?
Right.
You could ask something open-ended like, what kind of movies do you enjoy?
Oh,
That gets a longer answer with new words and sentences.
so smart. Turning a normal chat into a mini lesson.
Exactly. The guide even has lots of question types like, what's your opinion on?
Mm.
To, can you tell me more about? Each one gets you using different words.
That makes sense. It's like actively using the language, not just hearing it.
Right.
Okay, so we've got greetings, introductions, and questions down. What's next in becoming fluent?
Well, the guide gets into everyday phrases, for common situations like ordering food, asking for directions, or making reservations.
Yes, things you'll actually use in real life. It reminds me of that time I was trying to order a cappuccino in Italy. I had practiced so much, but when I got there, my mind went blank.
It happens to everyone. That's why practicing these phrases in actual situations is so important. This guide has examples like this one for a cappuccino. Hi, I'd like a cappuccino, please. Then the barista might say, sure, small, medium, or large.
Right.
And you'd say, medium, please.
Having those scripts ready can be a lifesaver when you're nervous.
Totally.
But even with practice, putting those phrases into a full conversation can be tough.
Yeah, and that's where the guide's next tip comes in, describing your day. It might seem simple, but it really helps.
Describing your day, how does that work?
Well, when you describe your day, you're using different tenses, past, present, future, to talk about what you did, what you're doing, and what you'll do. You naturally use new words and grammar without even thinking about it.
That's pretty clever, turning something you already do into practice. I like that.
Yeah,
The guide also mentions role-playing. That sounds fun.
it is. Role-playing makes you think quickly and respond to different things, like a practice run for real conversations.
I can see how that would be helpful, but I imagine some people might feel a little shy about it. Any tips to make it more fun?
Definitely. The guide suggests starting with easy situations like ordering food or asking for directions. You could even make up your own based on your life. The key is finding a partner who's learning too and who wants to have fun.
Like turning language learning into a game.
Exactly.
So we've covered greetings, questions, everyday phrases, describing your day, and even role-playing. What else is there?
The guide talks about listen and repeat, basically mimicking native speakers. It seems basic, but it really helps with your pronunciation.
I've heard of that, but how does it actually work in our brains?
Well, our brains are wired to copy others. It's how we learn language as babies, and it still works as we get older. When we listen to native speakers, we pick up the sounds and rhythms of the language.
Like downloading a language blueprint.
Yeah. And when we repeat those sounds, we're training our mouths to say them correctly. It's like muscle memory for speaking.
So it's not just about understanding the words, it's about the sounds too.
That's right. And the best part is you can practice anywhere, podcasts, movies, even just listening to people talk.
Eavesdropping for learning, of course.
Of course. The key is to listen closely and pay attention to how things are said.
So it's about surrounding yourself with the language and then using that to improve.
Yeah. And remember, being consistent is important. Even just a few minutes each day can make a difference.
Like any skill, the more you do it, the better you get.
Exactly. And the more comfortable you get with the sounds of English, the easier speaking will become.
This is all great advice. I'm impressed with how this guide makes such a big task feel doable.
Me too.
It makes me feel like anyone can improve their speaking as long as they put in the work.
That's the great part. It's not about being a language genius. It's about having the right tools and being dedicated to practicing.
And I think this guide really gives you those tools.
It does.
It's like having a personal language coach.
Totally. So for everyone out there wanting to start their journey, what's one small step they can take today?
What do you think?
Hmm. How about choosing one of the everyday phrases from the guide and practicing it out loud? It could be something as simple as, "I'd like a coffee, please," or, "Excuse me, where's the nearest restroom?"
That's a great starting point. It's those little habits that can lead to bigger changes.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to mess up. Mistakes are totally normal.
Actually, I think mistakes show you're trying new things, so make mistakes, learn from them, and keep practicing.
Right. And if you're ready for more, try finding a language partner or joining a group. Having someone to practice with can make things more fun and help you stay on track.
I love that. It's like having a cheerleader to celebrate your wins with and help you when things are hard.
Exactly. Learning a language is a journey, and it's better when you have someone to share it with.
So as we finish up this first part of our deep dive, what's one key thing you want listeners to take away?
I think the biggest thing is that improving your English speaking is totally achievable.
Yeah.
It's about breaking it down into smaller steps, finding what works for you, and practicing regularly.
And remember, this is just the beginning. We've covered the basics, and in the next part, we'll get into some more advanced techniques to really boost your skills. So stay tuned.
And until then, keep practicing, keep trying new things, and most importantly, have fun.
Yes. When you enjoy it, learning becomes a joy, not a chore. So until next time, keep speaking and keep those conversations going.
You know, it's cool how this guide connects all these simple tips to actually becoming fluent,
Yeah, I like that about it. It's not just random advice. It's like a roadmap.
right?
You start with greetings, then questions, and then you can handle those everyday situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as you go through the guide, you see how the skills build on each other.
Yeah.
Asking questions leads to using those phrases you practice.
Right.
And describing your day helps you use different tenses.
It's like each step prepares you for the next, not just memorizing words, but learning how to communicate.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's go back to role-playing for a sec. What do you think about it?
Honestly, I was a little unsure at first.
Yeah.
It felt a bit too much like acting. But now I see how useful it is.
Right.
It's like a safe way to practice real conversations without being scared of making mistakes.
Exactly. And the guide gives an example about shopping, where you have to ask for things, find out sizes and colors, maybe even haggle a bit. It's like a mini language immersion right at home.
I can see how that would help. You're not just repeating phrases, you're actually using the language to do something.
Yeah, that's where it gets really effective. And it connects back to the listen and repeat idea.
Oh, how so?
Think about how actors get ready for a role. They listen to recordings, they watch how people act, they get into the character's head.
Right.
So we can do the same thing when we're learning. Listen to native speakers, not just for the words, but for how they say things, their tone, their pauses, everything.
I see what you mean.
Then we try to copy that when we speak. It's like shaping your pronunciation to sound more natural.
Like becoming a language chameleon.
I like that. And the guy talks about having fun while you learn, too. It says find ways to make it enjoyable. Movies, music, even just listening to conversations.
For learning, of course.
Yeah,
But speaking of fun, I think it's good to admit that sometimes learning a language can be hard.
definitely. You'll get frustrated sometimes
Yeah.
or feel stuck.
Right.
That's totally normal.
So what does the guide say about those times? How do we stay motivated?
It says to celebrate those little wins.
Okay.
Maybe you learned a new grammar rule or talked to someone in English without getting lost.
Yeah.
Notice those achievements, even if they seem small.
That's a good reminder. It's easy to focus on what we haven't done yet
Right.
and forget how far we've come.
Exactly. And remember, learning a language is a journey, not a race. No need to compare yourself to others or try to be perfect overnight.
Take your time. Find what works for you and enjoy the process.
Exactly. And if you're struggling, don't be afraid to get help. Find a tutor, join a program, or talk to other learners online. There are lots of people going through the same thing.
Yeah, just knowing you're not alone can make a big difference.
Absolutely. So as we go deeper into this guide, what's standing out to you as most useful?
I think the idea of finding joy in the process is really powerful. Learning doesn't have to be boring.
I agree.
It can be fun and even change the way you see things.
I like how this guide breaks everything down into steps.
Me too.
It makes fluency seem less scary and more possible.
It does. It's like it's showing you that anyone can do it.
Right. And that's encouraging for people who might be nervous about learning.
Definitely. So what's one thing our listeners can do today to improve their speaking?
How about trying something called shadowing? Find a short audio clip of someone speaking English, listen a few times, and then try to speak along with them, copying their pronunciation.
Oh, that's interesting, like having a virtual speaking partner.
Yeah, and it really helps with your pronunciation and fluency. There are lots of free clips online, so it's easy to try.
I like that. It's about being creative and using what's available.
Exactly. And remember, consistency is important. A little bit each day can go a long way.
Yeah, those little efforts add up over time.
They do. So to wrap up this part, any final thoughts?
I think it's important to remember that learning a language is a journey. There will be good days and bad days. Embrace the whole experience, enjoy the wins, learn from the mistakes, and never give up on your goal of speaking English fluently.
That's perfect. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are lots of other people learning too. So connect with them, support each other, and celebrate each other's success. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those conversations going.
Wow, it's amazing how much we've already covered. And this is just the beginning.
I know, right?
We talked about greetings, questions, and using everyday situations to practice.
Yeah, and how role-playing can help, and that listening and repeating can really refine your pronunciation.
hmm And how important it is to actually enjoy the process. But let's get practical. What can our listeners do right now to start using these tips?
That's a good question. I'd say start with realistic goals. Don't try to become fluent overnight. Focus on learning a few phrases or having one short conversation in English every day.
I like that. Small steps can make a big difference.
Exactly. And try different ways of learning.
Yeah.
Some people like classes, others prefer watching movies or listening to podcasts.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. And don't be afraid of making mistakes.
Yeah, well.
Mistakes are actually really important.
Yeah.
They're how you learn.
Totally. Those oops moments can be the best teachers.
They show you what to work on and help you try new things.
So don't get discouraged by mistakes. See them as part of the process.
Exactly. Beyond techniques, though, I think having the right mindset is super important too.
Oh, tell me more about that. What kind of mindset are we talking about?
It's about being curious, enthusiastic, and willing to try new things.
Like having a growth mindset, believing that you can always learn and get better.
Yes. And it's about embracing the whole journey, the ups and the downs.
Celebrating the wins, learning from mistakes, and never giving up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The guide also mentioned something really interesting. Finding your why. Why are you learning English? What do you want to achieve?
That's such a good question. Having a reason can really keep you going when things get tough.
Yeah, it's the difference between just studying and actually working towards a goal.
So whether it's travel, connecting with people, or your career, let that be your motivation,
And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
right?
There's a whole community of English learners out there.
There is.
Connect with them online or in person. Share experiences, support each other, celebrate successes.
It makes the whole thing more fun and rewarding when you have others on the journey with you.
Definitely. So as we wrap up this deep dive on English speaking, what's one last thing you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is that anyone can become a confident English speaker.
It's true.
It's about taking those first steps, enjoying the ride, and never giving up on your goal.
Exactly. This deep dive is just the start. We've given you the tools, but now it's time to use them.
It is.
So go out there, have conversations, make mistakes, learn, grow, and most importantly, have fun. We're excited to hear about your progress. Until next time.
And remember, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep those conversations going.